Have you ever felt that the more you share with your loved ones, the more your life seems to lose its peace, especially as you grow older? It may sound hard to believe, but it's true. As we age, we learn some tough life lessons, and one of them is this: not everything needs to be said. There was a time when I thought that, after 65, it was necessary to be completely open with my children. So I shared almost everything: my health, finances, even my most personal thoughts. But that's when the fatigue started to creep in. I felt questioned more often, judged more frequently, and worst of all, I started feeling like I wasn't truly free anymore. Over time, I realized a priceless truth. Sometimes silence is a form of wisdom. Keeping certain things to yourself isn't selfish. It's a way to protect your peace, independence, and dignity in this stage of life. In today's video, I'll share with you 5 things you should consider keeping to yourself, drawn from real-life lessons. If you've ever felt overwhelmed from oversharing, want to avoid unnecessary stress, maintain strong family relationships, and protect your emotional freedom in your later years, then this video is for you. So stay with me until the end. And if you find this content meaningful, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and join our community of wise, happy, and healthy seniors. 1. Don't disclose your full financial situation to family. After living more than 70 years, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is this: not every truth needs to be shared with family, especially when it comes to money. I used to think, they're family. Why should I hide anything? I even considered telling my kids everything: how much I'd saved, what I planned to leave behind, what properties I had, so they'd feel secure and everything would be in order. But then a story from a close friend changed my perspective. My friend Bill, 70 years old, widowed, lived a simple life. One day, he gathered his 3 children, laid out every document: property deeds, savings, financial plans. He believed that honesty would bring them closer, that it would avoid misunderstandings later. And at first, things seemed fine. But just a few weeks later, things started to feel off. His eldest son began hinting, "Dad, do you really need this big house?" His youngest daughter sent him a long email suggesting he start transferring assets early to avoid taxes. And a son-in-law who never used to call suddenly asked, "What did you spend money on this month?" Bill later told me with a heavy voice, "I'm still here, still sharp, but they treat me like I'm on my way out." It made me uncomfortable just hearing it. The lesson is clear. After 65, you don't need to report or justify how you spend the money you've earned over a lifetime. You have the right to keep some things private, not out of distrust, but because you deserve the freedom and respect to live your life your way. You don't owe anyone explanations about why you took a trip, bought a new TV, or picked up a few extra vitamins. Yes, it's important to have a clear plan, power of attorney, a will, a trusted person to manage your affairs when needed. But don't rush to share every detail too early. Once you open the door, it's hard to close it again. People may stop trusting you to manage your life and start managing it for you. And if someone seems more interested in your wallet than your well-being, that's a red flag. Protect your peace. Talk about money only when necessary and with clear boundaries. That's how you preserve a peaceful and independent retirement. 2. Don't share every minor health issue with your kids. After 65, one of the hardest parts isn't dealing with your body getting weaker, it's dealing with people treating you like you're already fragile. Have you ever casually said, "My shoulder's been a little sore lately," and then the next day, your kids call non-stop, your grandkids show up with supplements, and everyone starts telling you to be careful, like you're about to fall apart? I've been there. And so has my dear friend Helen. She once mentioned she wasn't sleeping well. Right away, her daughter sent her fancy pillows, scheduled a home doctor visit, and even suggested installing a sleep monitor. Helen told me she felt amused, but also suffocated, like she was no longer seen as an adult, but as a potential patient. We know our children care, but when that care starts to make us feel less like ourselves, something's not right. Have you ever been excluded from a family trip because they thought you'd be too tired? Or felt uncomfortable just because a casual complaint led to a week of check-ins? The truth is, we've lived long enough to know what's serious and what's just part of aging. Holding back from talking about every ache or pain doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're protecting your independence and self-respect. Sometimes, keeping a little soreness to yourself is the best way to stay in control, physically and emotionally. 3. Sometimes it's better not to comment on family conflicts. Have you ever seen two of your children argue and tried to step in, only to end up being the one they blame? I remember clearly, my son and daughter got into a heated debate about money. I sat, listened for a while, then gently said, "Maybe both of you could meet halfway. Money's just a tool, after all." Silence. Nobody said anything. But days later, my daughter stopped calling. Eventually, she said, "It always feels like you're taking his side." I was stunned. I hadn't picked sides. I was just trying to keep the peace. But one small comment became fuel for the fire. That's when I realized something important. At our age, silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom. You've been through enough storms to know. Some things get messier the more you speak. Not every fight needs a referee. Not every relationship needs your repair. You may mean well, but no matter how softly you speak, people might still hear criticism. Even worse, long after the fight is over, they may remember your words more than the cause of the conflict. Have you ever been misunderstood like that? If so, share your story in the comments. Maybe your experience can help someone else avoid unnecessary heartache. And if you agree that sometimes silence is the wisdom of the experienced, drop a thumbs up to let me know I'm not the only one who thinks this way. 4. Not every regret needs to be spoken aloud. Learning to stay silent during family drama taught me something else. Sometimes, sharing too much about your regrets can quietly push your loved ones away. Once, during a peaceful walk, I told my daughter, if I hadn't retired so early, maybe life would have turned out differently. It was just a passing thought. But after that day, she spoke less. I felt something shift. Much later, she told me, "Dad, when you said that, I felt like you were saying you regret having me." I was speechless. That was never my intention. I was just reflecting on my life, not blaming anyone. But what I meant didn't matter. What she heard did. It hit me hard. Even harmless comments about the past can cause real pain. As we grow older, it's normal to reflect. But not everyone understands that reminiscing isn't the same as complaining. Over time, I've realized not every lesson needs to be said aloud. Some are meant to be kept quietly, as an act of love. Have you ever said something you thought was innocent, but it hurt someone deeply? If so, let's talk about it in the comments. Sometimes gentle reminders like these are all we need to be more thoughtful. 5. Don't share your full financial picture with your grandchildren. One of the most painful realizations isn't from an argument or a regret. It's when you suddenly realize some people only check in when they expect something. Have you ever felt that? I had a grandchild who never called much. Then one day, out of the blue, he called and asked how I was doing. I felt touched. I thought, he's grown up. He's showing he cares. But a few days later, he messaged me, "Grandpa, if you have a little extra, I'd like to open a small shop. Could you help?" I wasn't angry, I just felt empty. I understand money's complicated, but when care is tied to expectations, it loses its sincerity, and people aren't always direct. Some won't ask, but every friendly visit is paired with a subtle hint about inheritance. Some won't say it, but they treat you like a walking will. Let me be clear, keeping your finances private is a form of freedom. Not because you're distrustful, but because you've lived long enough to know only you can decide what brings you peace. Have you ever felt treated differently just because of how much money people think you have or don't have? If so, share in the comments. And if you believe that your true worth isn't in your bank account, but in the love you've given, drop a heart so I know you're out there still living with heart. A message for you. After all I've shared, here's the most important truth I've learned. After 65, peace doesn't mean fewer storms. It means knowing what not to carry anymore. Not everyone will understand that. Some people think the older you get, the more you should share. But the truth is, sometimes the more you keep to yourself, the happier you'll be. Not out of selfishness, but because you've earned the right to choose what's worth sharing and what's worth protecting. You don't need to say everything. You don't need to explain everything. You just need to live in a way that brings you calm, clarity, and no regrets. And yes, it's not always easy, but you're not alone. Millions of people out there feel the same, tired from oversharing, misunderstood, and like they've lost themselves within their own families. If you saw yourself in any of these stories today, leave a comment and tell me what you now choose to keep to yourself and why. And if this message touched your heart, please like, share this video with someone your age, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep having honest, heartfelt conversations week after week. Because at this stage in life, we all deserve to live gently and to be truly heard.